Good evening. This is Kathy L. Murphy, the Pulpwood Queen, and I have a really special guest tonight. I'm so excited about. This is one of our International Pulpwood Queen and Timber Guys Book Club authors, Marci Henna, and she lives in Austin, Texas, and she has a book to film that is incredible. It just debuted this week on Amazon Prime, and we're going to learn all about it. But first, I want to introduce you to Marci. She's got the movie poster behind you. So y'all welcome Marci Henna. She's got her tiara on.
Well, thank you, Kathy, and it's so good to be with you. And I want to thank you just straight off the bat for all you've done for authors and just tell you how much I appreciate you.
Thank you.
So glad to be here with you.
I am thrilled. You know, I have been a movie buff my whole life because my mother always wanted to be a movie star. So the best times we ever had was when the lights went out, we all crowded on the divan and we watched The Wizard of Oz, or we watched To Kill a Mockingbird. It was always a big deal to watch a movie on our black and white Curtis Mathis television. It had 3 stations, okay? 3 stations.
Right.
So, but I also had my nose stuck in a book. And during this time of social distancing, I found myself, you know, my eyes would be so tired at night. I started watching films and I thought, there's nobody really in this country that is promoting, you know, I promote first time, first book authors and try to help authors get started. So why not do that with filmmakers? It's really, we went from, I posted this, that I was going to do this, and within 10 minutes I had 52 signed up, and now we're up to 1,000 people. I guess everybody's just like me, you know, they're binge watching on Netflix or Amazon Prime. But you have a wonderful new film. And When We Last Spoke is the title of the book, and this is based upon your book. And one of the things to turn it into film.
Kathy, we lost audio for a minute, but
Let me
so I'm
repeat.
sorry.
Okay.
Yes.
What made you decide to take your book to film?
Well, I always was interested in creating family entertainment that all ages could watch, from youngest to the oldest, and you know, no one had to leave the room or cover their eyes. That would be appropriate for everyone.
Thank you.
And that was important to me. But the whole time I started, when I first started writing the series, I saw it in a very visual way. I always saw it somehow up on screen. And right before I published When We Last Spoke, I was on Facebook and I saw that someone had made a book trailer. I'd never heard of a book trailer before, and I thought, oh my goodness. So within about 5 minutes, I decided I was going to film one, and within that month, I had a crew and I was on set filming the book trailer.
Really?
I did, and so I released that at the same time I released my book, and I floated it through Facebook, and it caught the attention of producer Fred Miller and his wife Kathy Miller. They read the book, and then they came to me and said, "Would you be interested?" Well, that started the ball rolling, and we wound up working also with Rick Eldridge, who has Real Works Productions, and with director Joanne Hogg. Our other screenwriters were Jimmy Hager, who's actually cousin of Rick Eldridge's, and Rick worked on it as well. We all collaborated on the screenplay, but Joanne gave us our screen polish, our final piece that we worked from, did a beautiful job with the screen.
Oh, yes. Yeah, absolutely.
And she's a phenomenal director, by the way. I just love working with her, and we are collaborating on future films too.
Yeah.
So that'll be fun.
I'm so excited.
So that's really how I got started, was just always having that, just seeing it in that way the whole time I was writing it.
Well, Austin is known as such a film mecca. I cannot tell you how many of some of my favorite actors got started down there. Matthew McConaughey, and I remember, you know, I don't know if you remember the Christopher Guest films, but I loved Waiting for Guffman and Best in Show, and I know that one of the little actresses that was in it was from the Austin area. I see her a lot in the films, but you have your own film festival, and you won. What was it?
You won. We won the Audience Favorite Award for Texas Independent Films.
I
I
hope
did.
everybody's hearing this, because if you're looking for a film to watch with the whole family, this is a perfect one. And the music, the soundtrack, the cinematography, growing up, and I know you probably filmed it somewhere around Austin, but it reminded me so much of home, of growing up in Kansas. And I was telling Marci before we went on the air, my family too had a pink Cadillac. And in this film, I love the story of the pink Cadillac, and you got me, because that was a surprise. You've got to watch the film. But the main thing I think that you really got it right was the casting of the characters, because let's hear about some of the actors that you had
Sure.
involved in this film. Amazing actors.
Well, to start, we have Cloris Leachman, who at the time we filmed, which was 2 years ago, and we filmed in Georgia, by the way, Toccoa, Georgia,
Did you? Wow,
and in
that's great.
Oklahoma, a little bit in Oklahoma. And so Cloris was 92, and
Is
my
she
goodness,
really?
she's 94 and a half now. So yes, so she was really the queen of our set, and she was a hoot. She's a natural comedian, and she's been a comedian for uh,
She's
a
like
long, long
Betty
time.
White.
So
She's just timeless.
she is timeless, and she's won Best Supporting Actress. She's won a jillion awards, but she was a hoot to work with, and she just cracked jokes. She, flirted with the cameraman. She'd say, "Mark, give me some light, honey." And she was so much fun, and she was lovely and professional, and really gave us such a beautiful Itasca. That's the role she plays. She plays the role of an elderly woman who has dementia, who's a difficult person in the beginning, and then when you get to know her, you grow to love her and find out that she really does have a beautiful heart inside. So, and then we have Corbin Burnson playing Walt, who plays the grandfather in the story. And this was a different role for Corbin. He was known to play things like L.A. Law and Psych and different roles that were usually pretty tough characters. But the Walt of our story maybe appears a little bit crusty, but he has a heart of gold and really is kind of the Santa Claus in the family in a way, to his wife Ruby and to his granddaughters. He really just wants to make everybody happy. And then we have Melissa Gilbert playing Ruby, the grandmother in the story. And she did such a beautiful job. I mean, who can even imagine that she could possibly be old enough to play a grandmother? And she just barely is. She's in her 50s, because
I
we
know.
remember her from Little House on the Prairie, right?
Oh, absolutely. Grew up on all those, and I grew up on those books. So, she was a part of my childhood. So, yeah, I love her. And she's been involved in the film industry for a long time, and behind the scenes. And I think she was president of the Actors Guild,
She
wasn't she?
was. She
Yeah.
really was. And she's married to Timothy Busfield, who's a producer and an actor and director as well. So they're an interesting couple.
It was wonderful. And the two little girls, are those little Texan girls?
No, no. A lot of our cast came from the Charlotte, North Carolina area. And in fact, that's where our director and most of our crew came from. But Darby Camp and Chandler Head play the little girls. And they are extraordinary. In fact, even though they were very young, they had national reputations when we were able to cast them, and have been in a lot of films. Darby Camp has been in The Christmas Chronicles. That's one of her more current
Oh,
pieces.
that's right. I just
Yes,
watched that. Oh
1
my
and
God.
2.
I didn't catch that. Oh my God.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, oh gosh, she's been in so much. It's just mind-boggling. But and then little Chandler Head has recently been in the Right Stuff, and
Yes.
she's in The Glass Castles. But both of them have, big reputations, but they are charming, and they're real kids. They have fun. They cut up between scenes. But when the words "sound has speed," and that's what you hear every time before you start filming, you hear the audio part first. Well, they are in place. They are professional. They hit their marks, and they are in character. I was just amazed with the little girls. Love their
Oh,
performances.
very talented little girls. And the clothing, whoever did the wardrobe for the film, I wore those dresses. I remember those dresses with the self belts and, the little Peter Pan.
Right.
Everything about the clothing was so right on and remind me of my grandmother. And And my mother was very much like the mother character in the, in the, that
Are you
took
talking
off
about
of each
Marguerite?
book. Yeah.
Marguerite. Hmm.
So it's a great story. I don't want to give anything away on the story, but I also want to talk to you about, you produced this film and you also were one of the writers,
Hmm.
which is, I love that, because I think the best films have author input, and you can really tell because the story was so well done and the dialogue was so true. um, how much was your involvement in the writing process?
Well, there was a team of us who collaborated all through the process. I didn't actually do the writing. I collaborated and kind of guided them. And if I thought that the dialogue didn't sound quite like a Texas dialogue, then I would give input and regarding character shaping and development. But really, we had wonderful writers and Joanne Hawk especially, and Jimmy Hager, and I loved working with them. I really enjoyed the development phase of this. It took us, oh gosh, probably 9 months of development in terms of just writing the screenplay before we ever got to the filming part. So that was,
it's quite a process, and it's something I don't really understand, but usually it seems like to me most people take about a year to get that screenplay just down, and then
right.
you have, how long did it actually take you in filming the scenes, since you did them in multiple states? Was it
Well, the actual filming was a little over 3 weeks in Georgia, and
wow.
then like a month later, there was a short, just a filming sequence that happened in Oklahoma, actually. But you spend time in pre-production, and then production was relatively short. But it's post-production that's like birthing a baby, really, because you don't film in sequence. You film as to what makes sense, when the cast is available, what is most economical to do, what is the most time saving to do, because every moment that the clock ticks means dollar signs.
Right.
So, and then there are, changes that are made from adapting a novel to screen. Often there are economic decisions, and plus it's the journey of the narrative, because when you're writing a novel, you have the luxury of spending pages to describe a scene, but on film it takes 1 second to show what it took you pages to demonstrate in book, or relay. And so it's a very different animal in that regard, but it's a fun one, and I've loved the journey. Can't wait to do it again.
Well, I'm excited about that, but I think the process is amazing. So from the start to finish, because most production's been shut down completely because of COVID, so you had this from start to finish. How long did it take?
Well, we started working on the screenplay in June of 2016. We filmed. We went into pre-production in June of 2018. So it was about a 2-year journey just to get to the point we're about to start filming. So
It's amazing, but you got it out just in time, because right now I've been wondering, everything it looks like to me in film is going to be going towards these new genres of Netflix, Amazon Prime, Hulu,
streaming.
Apple TV, because they can do smaller sets, close sets, and get things done in a relatively economized way.
Right.
I wonder what's going to happen with the big screen, because when I went to Dallas to see my daughter, they just built this gigantic mega movie theater that's not open. And I'm thinking, wonder if that is ever even going to open now.
Oh, I pray that it will, because there's no experience like a cinematic experience.
That's
Our
right.
movie was just in theaters in October. And it's a different world with COVID. It is so hard, incredibly hard on the theater owner. It's just a tough time because there's no experience like a theater experience.
The ticket taker for the Princess Theater downtown. So, oops, we're going in and out here. Hang on. Let me see if I can get us back. That's so awful that we're having this. There we go. And as soon as she got done with the Princess Theater, she would go out to the drive-in theater. And she did the tickets at 9 o'clock at the drive-in theater. So because my Aunt Mabel worked there for 30 some years, she worked at the gas office next door during the day, and then at night she did those jobs. Movies was such a big part of my life, and there's nothing like seeing, you know, Blue Hawaii on a drive-in movie theater screen in Cadillac, because I grew up, our family car was a 1957 pink Cadillac, and it was like the back seat was as big as a whale, because my little sister used to lay down in the window, and then my sister, middle sister, and I would sit with the armrest and have our drinks and our popcorn, because my mom made the popcorn, but we did get to go to the concession stand to get our drinks. But that was such an important part of growing up, and I just so afraid that my grandson, who's only 20 months old, I want him to experience what it was like to go to the movies, and like I did with my kids.
Sure.
And their drive-in theaters are actually popping up in Walmarts of all places.
I know.
Isn't that
Yeah.
crazy? It's really crazy.
It is.
But I am thrilled for your film, and so now you're going to be taking it around on different theater circuits and film festival circuits, or how's it going to work from here?
Well, we may do some more film festivals. That's also very different during COVID as well. But you know, we're on Amazon now. We're also on ChristianCinema.com, and we were #1 film there for a while, and 5 stars. So it's been an exciting journey. And after Amazon, it'll be available more places. I think. Several more coming this spring, and plus the DVDs will come out next April, I believe. So
it's going to keep going. People are going to want to buy it, because it's one that would be great to watch, you know, when you have family gatherings, Thanksgiving. The other interesting thing about the film that I really loved is, besides the costumes, the cinematography is beautiful, but it was the food. You really nailed the food. I mean, you know, I don't even know if people eat fried chicken that much anymore. I mean, I'm talking not bucket chicken from KFC. I'm talking about my grandmother fried a chicken every Sunday. You know, and we had the cream gravy with the biscuits, and 50 jars of jams and jellies on the table, and green beans and all those things. And I just long for those days of the home cooking and the sitting around the table where everybody's in conversation.
Sure. You know, some of our best memories are food related, aren't they, Kathy? There's food in there somehow. There were for me. And a lot of things that were served in the movie were really kind of harken back to my grandmother's cooking. So we all lived on a ranch together, not in the same house, but on the same ranch that's been in the family since 1800s. And there were 4 of us kids. I was the oldest, and we would walk to the school bus and then walk home every day. And often we would eat with my grandparents on weekends or special occasions. And she would have fried chicken and butternut squash, tomatoes from her garden, all these things that were grown or produced on the ranch. She raised chickens, they had cattle, everything except for, flour and sugar and Jell-O. Everything else, Jell-O. My grandmother's grocery list had about 6 items on there, and she went about once a month because everything else was grown locally.
They put up all their own eggs and milk and all that. But I can remember her having this big, giant pressure cooker. Remember the big rectangular ones that they locked in? I was always afraid it was going to blow.
I know, me too.
And I still am scared of those things. I would never have one, but they'd either cook a chicken in that and have chicken and homemade noodles, or fried chicken. Chicken was a big staple, as was chicken fried steak and round steak and all those things, roast and all those things that we had. It brought it all back to me. And I wonder how many people actually sit around a table anymore and share a dinner, a Sunday dinner,
Well, I hope they do, because if they don't, they're missing out on something really important.
They really are. And once my grandmother would get all the dishes cleared, we'd play dominoes.
Oh, sure.
And we play partner pitch. And I remember when family members had come over, the kids were always sent outside. Well, I'd always get under the table. And that's when you heard the best stories, because when they're playing dominoes, and I was really a introvert, quiet kid as a kid. I knew if I was real still or quiet, they'd forget I was there. And I heard some good stuff.
Yeah, I bet.
I love the stories. My grandparents were real storytellers, but that was their entertainment.
Right. And it was that way in my family. And that's really one of the things that prompted me to become a writer, was that my grandfather was a very crusty rancher. He was about 6'4", and my grandmother was about 5 feet with her shoes on.
Oh,
and when they would hug, she would look straight into his belt buckle, which was pretty funny, because she was so short and he was so tall.
It was the same way with my grandparents. Absolutely. She was tiny and he was
funny.
Real tall. I don't know why that was. And he was bow-legged from riding the horses all the time.
Oh, sure. Well, my grandfather would hold forth after we'd have that big meal that my grandmother would cook. He had this little office chair in his living room, and this is a tiny house. There were like 4 rooms in this house.
Yeah.
And he would lean up against the wall in his office chair on wheels, and I was always terrified that he was going to slide out from under him and kill him. He was going to get hurt. He never did. He never went off balance, and he would hold forth for hours and telling stories about the Texas Rangers in our family, or who did this or who did what back 100 years earlier. And that was an oral tradition that had been passed down from his father and from his father. And he loved to tell a good story, and he always began it with, "Let me tell you a good joke." Well, his stories were never funny, but they were lessons in irony. But he would say, "Let me tell you a good joke." So it's about irony, every one of them. And I was mesmerized by him, and I would just sit there as long as he would talk. Loved it.
They called me Cat Soup when I was a kid because I couldn't pronounce ketchup.
Oh.
And my name was Kathy, and he goes, "Come on, Cat Soup, let's go check the cows." And so I'd hop in that old green pickup truck and listen to KFDI radio, and he could warble whistle. You don't see it anymore, but when he whistled, it was like a bird. It always just thought it was the coolest thing. And then sometimes I'd sit on the tailgate, and knock pieces of the hay bale off for the cows. But that was my childhood, was a good part of my childhood. Every summer and every weekend I was out on that farm, and I miss it. And every time I go home, I go out there. And the last time I went out there, they had the gate locked. I couldn't drive in. I mean, they had padlocks, and I thought, no, I mean, everything's gone, but just to drive up the road, and I could still see the barns and, all the outbuildings and their little house and the pond, but even the pond's dried up now, but it was sad. I told my kids, I go, "Well, when you go to spread my ashes, you may have to climb over the fence when you go out home," because we called it out home. Well, that's wonderful. And your family still has the ranch?
Yes, we still do.
How many acres are we talking about?
Well, it's down to about 750, 800, something like that. It was bigger back in the 1800s. But as each generation has gone by, it's gotten smaller. You know how that happens.
Do they farm, or do they do both? Or
well, currently it's mainly about cattle. But when I was a kid, my grandparents were still living. They had sheep, goats, cattle. They had a peach orchard. That's how they made most of their money, was in the peach industry, and had chickens, you name it. They were raising it, and a huge garden.
Oh yeah, I can remember helping. They had like an acre of potatoes.
Oh my goodness.
Digging up those new potatoes. Oh my gosh. But I loved it. And, but when people go to see this film, most of our parents were raised rurally. the kids today are cityfied in a lot of ways. I mean, my kids grew up outside of town, and they are a little different than most. But most kids today, I can remember taking my Girl Scout troop to go out to a farm, and they were like, chicken or a cow, you know, they were scared, or a sheep. They,
Right.
and I just go, you know, I just take it all for granted, but they're like exotic animals to them. So, but I think now that COVID's happened, people are moving back out of the cities.
That's true.
And I
Very true.
know where I live in East Texas, it's very wooded and rural here. So many people from Dallas are moving in that this gated community that had 3,000 is now up to 4,000. And they're building homes left and right. But the way the homes are built, you can't see your neighbors because of the woods. So I feel like I'm out in the country, but I'm really not. But I have a lot of friends moving here, and they want to get out of the city because you can't do anything in a city. At least if you're in the country, you can drive.
Right.
And not have to worry about going to the post office, running into people, or so
different world.
Yeah. So you're working on another book or another film, or both?
Well, both. And I know you've been so kind about What Lies Ahead. That's the next book in the series. So I'm working with director Joanne Halleck on that screenplay, and then the next book, All We Ever Needed, I've done the synopsis for and started the screenplay on that one. So we've got several more planned, and we'll see what happens. We'll see how this resonates with the audience. I pray it does. It's been such a meaningful journey for myself and for all the people on our crew and our cast too. So we're hoping to go forward.
Well, if you want to jump in anytime to be on my film club, just let me know. We'll work you in and help you promote your.
Thank you, Kathy.
Because it's really wonderful. And I am not a big Marvel comic book animation type of theater watch. I want story. And I think that's why I fell so in love with the Bollywood films, is because everything is about the story. And the South is so full of great Southern tales, either African American tales or Appalachian tales, or, tales of, my Irish ancestors coming in. They were great storytellers. So it's all about the story to me. So this is just another way that I'm sharing, the power of the written word, how it can remind us of, wonderful times, or also inspire us to be better people. So, Marci, thank you for joining me. Thank you for wearing a tiara. You're awesome.
This was an honor to you, Kathy.
That's really killer. And I love the poster. And I'm hoping that when we get this vaccine going, keep me up to date on everything, because
I will.
Man, I would love to go to the movies to see one of your things in a theater or any place if it's playing around here.
Thank you.
I just thank you so much for
thank you for having me. I've loved being with you.
Yeah, we have another author who joined us tonight, Kathleen Rogers, who wrote The Flying Cutterbucks. And so we thank you for joining us tonight, Kathleen. I'm going to, as soon as this is over, it downloads, and it will be put up on my Kathy L. Murphy YouTube channel, and you could share it with the world. And I found that more people watch them after I post them than when I do them live. I don't know what people are doing on Saturday night anywhere else, but I'm stuck at home. So I just wanted to have a way to talk about books and movies with like-minded people. And I thank you both for being here. And we will meet up down the road. And
sounds great.
Yeah. And you know what would be a cool thing to do is maybe do a video behind the story of your family's ranch. I think everybody would really enjoy that. If you do that, something like that, we'll have you back on and you can talk about that, because I just had another documentary filmmaker that did one on this incident that happened with the Texas Rangers back at the turn of the century, a documentary. And her story was fascinating. I want to go there now. They have a plaque where all these Mexican men were killed. Just, it was a heinous crime, and it was one of the darkest history in Texas history. Texas history is always fascinating, but I love to go to the places where movies are filmed. So this was done in Georgia. You said part of it was done in Georgia and part of it in Oklahoma.
In Broken Arrow, Oklahoma.
In Broken Arrow. Well, that's my old stomping ground because of Beavers Bend State Park. I love it up there. So thank you for joining me.
Thank
Anything
you.
you want to share with anybody before we say goodbye?
No, I wish everyone a joyful holiday season, and just, I feel so blessed to get to be a part of this group. So,
well,
thank you.
We are blessed to have your book and your film, and just keep them coming. So
Okay.
I just want to encourage you, and we'll say goodbye for now. I'll share the
Okay.
link with you when it downloads. So
Thank you,
bye,
Kathy.
everybody. Happy holiday and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Happy
Bye-bye.
holidays. Bye-bye.